Your current life is a reflection of decisions made 90 days ago. That's not a theory, that's not a motivational catchphrase. It's a fundamental truth about how results in life compound over time. The life you're living right now, the body you see in the mirror, the money in your bank account, the attitude you carry when you wake up in the morning, none of that is random. All of it is the product of what you chose to do or chose to ignore 3 months ago. Now, why 90 days? Why not a week? Why not a year? Because 90 days is the sweet spot. It's long enough for consistency to bear visible fruit, yet short enough to still feel within reach. It's close enough to be influenced by your recent behavior, and distant enough that you can't fake it. You can't cheat the process. If you went to the gym once in the past 90 days, your body won't lie. If you skipped it for 3 months, your body also won't lie. If you've been budgeting, saving, investing, even just a little at a time, that shows up after 90 days. If you've been reckless with your finances, it shows up too. See, life has a delayed response system. When you plant seeds, you don't get crops tomorrow. The soil doesn't care about your feelings. It only rewards the consistent planter. If you started working on your health 90 days ago, walking every morning, drinking more water, cutting sugar, sleeping earlier, then chances are today you're feeling better. You're thinking more clearly. Your clothes might fit differently. You've got a little more spring in your step. And it's not because of anything you did today, it's because of the momentum you built weeks ago. It works the other way, too. Let's say you stopped caring 90 days ago. You started slacking off. You let the bad habits back in. A little more fast food, a little less sleep, skipped the gym, procrastinated on your goals. Nothing happened the first week. Nothing even happened in the second week. That's the danger. Neglect is sneaky. It doesn't knock on your door and announce its arrival. It creeps in silently and shows up only when it's too late to deny. And then one day you wake up and realize something's off. You're sluggish, you're anxious, you're frustrated, and it feels like it happened suddenly. But it didn't. It was quietly building up behind the scenes, just like success does. Think about any area of your life right now. Your career, your mindset, your spiritual well-being, your physical condition, your relationships. All of them are lagging indicators of effort. What you feel today is not what you did yesterday. It's what you committed to or neglected over a longer period of time. You can't cram character development. You can't binge integrity. You can't make up for lost discipline in one heroic weekend. That's why people get confused. They think, I tried this for a week and nothing happened. Well, of course, nothing happened because the results weren't built in a week. They were never meant to be. Life doesn't pay you by the hour. It pays you by the value you bring daily, steadily, without skipping. The universe works on compound interest. Effort compounds. So does laziness. So does inconsistency. When people look around at their life and wonder why it looks the way it does, they often go searching for outside explanations. But rarely do they pause and ask, what was I doing 90 days ago? That's the real audit. That's the uncomfortable mirror. That's the part most people don't want to face, because it puts the responsibility right back where it belongs, in your hands. You see, you can lie to your friends, you can lie to your coworkers, you can even lie to your mentor, but you cannot lie to your results. They are brutally honest. They are either proof of discipline or the consequence of avoidance. They are feedback. If you've been doing the work, they whisper, keep going. If you haven't, they say, you can't fake this. What's fascinating is how consistent this principle is across every part of life. You look at elite athletes, they're not reacting to the moment, they're the product of habits built long before the lights turned on. Look at financially successful people, they're not rich because they stumbled into a good month. They built systems, they made sacrifices, they said no when others said yes, and over time, their 90-day windows kept stacking up into years of intentional behavior. Same goes for relationships. A strong relationship doesn't suddenly blossom from nowhere. It's made of 90-day seasons of attention, communication, vulnerability, and time. Likewise, a broken relationship doesn't shatter in a single fight. It erodes over time, often silently, through small moments of disconnection that stack up. That's the pattern. That's the truth nobody can outrun. It's not what you did last night. It's what you did when nobody was clapping, nobody was watching, nobody was checking in. Your habits are building a life whether you realize it or not.
There's no neutrality in this game. You're either getting stronger or weaker, sharper or duller, closer or further. Progress doesn't happen by accident, neither does decline. You're either building a foundation or you're eroding one. You're planting or you're waiting, and waiting is dangerous because it gives you the illusion of movement without requiring any of the effort. Look at where you are today, honestly. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't get emotional about it. Just look. Whatever's good in your life, you planted those seeds. Whatever's broken, you left it untended. It's not shameful, it's educational. Because once you realize that your current results are rooted in your past behavior, you also realize something even more powerful. Your future results are being shaped right now, and the moment that truth sinks in, when it really hits you, you stop waiting for motivation. You stop blaming the past. You stop asking for shortcuts, because the blueprint is already in your hands. Success and failure are both results of small, consistent actions. That's the truth most people overlook because they're so busy chasing the big breakthrough, the life-changing moment, the lucky break. They think success is an event, a promotion, a big win, a spotlight, a lucky turn of fate. But real success doesn't arrive in one grand explosion. It arrives quietly on the back of repeated, often boring, consistent actions taken over time. The same goes for failure. It's not one mistake that ruins you. It's not one missed opportunity. It's not one bad decision. It's a slow erosion. One excuse at a time, one skipped commitment at a time, one ignored responsibility after another. It's easy to underestimate the power of the small things. A 5-minute walk doesn't feel like it's doing much. Reading a page a day doesn't seem impressive. Choosing water over soda seems insignificant. But when you do it every day, when you string those small actions together over weeks and months, they compound. What starts as a single drop becomes a flood. That's how momentum works. That's how success is built. The people who are thriving didn't get there by accident. They didn't stumble into great health, strong finances, meaningful relationships, or deep confidence. They built it, and they built it one small brick at a time. They didn't always feel motivated. They didn't always feel like doing it, but they showed up anyway. Because success isn't about feeling good in the moment. It's about choosing what's right over and over, regardless of mood or circumstance. The danger is that small actions work in both directions. Just as tiny positive habits build strength, tiny negative habits build weakness. Skipping one workout doesn't destroy your body, but skipping one turns into skipping two. Ignoring a task once becomes a pattern. Justifying a bad decision because it's only one time slowly lowers your standards. Before you know it, you're living a life that doesn't resemble your intentions at all. Every choice you make either moves you toward your goals or away from them. There is no neutral ground. You're either building your discipline or breaking it down. Every action either strengthens your future or delays it. This is why consistency matters so much. It's not about perfection. It's about direction. It's about asking yourself every day, am I moving closer to who I want to become or further away? What throws people off is that results don't show up immediately. There's a delay between effort and outcome, and during that delay, it's easy to get discouraged. You go to the gym for 2 weeks and nothing changes. You save a little money each month and your account still looks small. You try to communicate better and the relationship still feels tense. So you give up. You think it's not working, but it is working. You just can't see it yet. The work is building, the shift is happening, but it's happening underground before it ever becomes visible. That's the test of consistency. Can you keep showing up even when there's no applause, no instant reward, no visible progress? Most people quit too early. They want the harvest without the planting.
They want the reward without the grind, but the universe doesn't work that way. It pays those who are willing to stay the course, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when it's lonely. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have it all together, they weren't always like that. They were just consistent longer than most. They outlasted the doubt. They kept going after the excitement faded. It's not about having some superhuman ability. It's about making a decision. One small decision after another, waking up and doing the hard thing, saying no to what doesn't serve you, saying yes to what pushes you forward even when you're tired. These are the actions that separate those who grow from those who stay stuck. The gap between average and exceptional isn't massive talent. It's tiny choices made daily, without drama, without excuse. Every successful person has rituals, daily practices, simple, repeatable actions that they guard with intensity, not because the actions are glamorous, but because they work. The real masters of life are the ones who understand the power of the mundane. They don't need every day to be exciting. They just need every day to be aligned with their values. They don't chase motivation. They build systems, and those systems create consistency, and that consistency builds trust, not just with others, but with themselves. There's power in doing what you said you'd do. There's power in not breaking your own word. Every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you reinforce your identity. You're saying to yourself, I'm the kind of person who shows up. I'm the kind of person who finishes. I'm the kind of person who takes control of my life. That belief is what fuels long-term change. That belief doesn't come from talk, it comes from action. On the flip side, every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken your confidence. You chip away at your self-respect. That's how failure builds. Not in one big decision, but in 1,000 tiny ones, one lie at a time, one excuse at a time, one I'll do it tomorrow at a time, and then one day you wake up and you don't trust yourself anymore. You don't believe in your own word. That's a painful place to live. But the beauty of small actions is that they can turn things around. You don't need a dramatic comeback. You don't need a miracle. You just need to start. One small action, repeated with purpose, one small habit, guarded with intensity, that's all it takes to shift direction. The road to failure and the road to success are only a few decisions apart. It's not about being perfect, it's about being intentional. So often, people are waiting for a sign, for the perfect plan, for the moment everything feels right. But that moment rarely comes. Waiting is what keeps you stuck. Action is what sets you free, even if it's messy, even if it's uncertain. Taking one small step forward is infinitely more valuable than standing still trying to think your way into confidence. Confidence comes from doing, from stacking small wins, from proving to yourself that you can keep going no matter what. Discipline isn't a personality trait, it's a skill. It's built through repetition, and repetition requires patience. You're not going to feel like it every day, you're not supposed to, but the people who succeed are the ones who act anyway. They don't treat feelings as commands, they treat discipline as non-negotiable. They know that how they feel doesn't determine what they do. What they do determines how they feel. And by doing the small things consistently, they start to build a life that reflects those choices. Neglect today leads to consequences tomorrow. That's one of those truths people often ignore because neglect is quiet. It doesn't make noise, it doesn't cause an immediate explosion, and it rarely gives you a warning. It's subtle. It's the missed workout, the snoozed alarm, the skipped reading, the avoided conversation. It's the choice to look the other way when you know something needs your attention. And because there's no immediate punishment, you tell yourself it's fine. You tell yourself you'll get to it later. But what most people fail to realize is that neglect has a cost, one that accumulates slowly and then shows up all at once. Neglect doesn't ask for your permission. It just takes root. You leave a small problem unattended, and over time it grows teeth. The undone task becomes a burden. The ignored issue becomes a crisis. The minor crack becomes a collapse. People don't suddenly end up in a financial mess, or a health emergency, or a broken relationship. They arrive there by way of daily neglect, one missed responsibility at a time, one postponed decision at a time, one rationalized excuse after another. It's easy to overlook how powerful small acts of neglect can be. Life is a compounding machine, and while we often talk about the compounding benefits of good habits, we don't talk enough about the compounding destruction of bad ones, or worse, of inaction. When you neglect your health, your finances, your learning, your discipline, it doesn't immediately collapse. That's what makes it so dangerous. If something broke the second you ignored it, you'd respond. But it doesn't. It stays quiet. It allows you to believe you're getting away with it. It lulls you into comfort. And then, one day, it doesn't ask for your attention. It demands it. Think of your life like a garden. If you tend to it, water it, protect it from pests, pull the weeds, it flourishes. But if you neglect it even just a little, nature doesn't stay neutral. The weeds grow, the soil hardens, the beauty fades. And suddenly, that thing you were responsible for no longer resembles what it could have been. That's what happens with your body, your career, your character, your dreams. They're not permanent, they need attention. They require stewardship. Without that, entropy takes over. What's tricky is that neglect is deceptively easy to justify. You're tired, you've had a long day, you'll do it tomorrow. It's not urgent, it's just one time. And in the moment, that all sounds reasonable, but reason is not always your ally. Comfort loves a good excuse, and if you're not vigilant, those small lapses become a lifestyle. That's how standards erode. You stop noticing, you stop caring, you begin to normalize mediocrity, and then you wonder why life feels harder than it used to. Neglect has a cousin, it's called regret, and regret doesn't show up right away either. It comes later, when the results are already in, when it's too late to change the outcome, when you're staring at the consequences of decisions you could have made but didn't. That's one of the harshest parts of life. You don't get to rewind and fix the season you neglected. You only get to face it and learn from it. And if you're wise, that pain becomes a lesson, a motivation, a reason to do better in the next season. You can neglect your health for years and seem fine. But eventually the check comes. You can neglect your savings and live well for a while, but then the unexpected hits and there's no cushion. You can neglect your relationships and pretend it's all okay. But over time, the distance grows, the connection weakens, and then you realize it's not repairable with a single apology. These things don't explode, they erode, and the erosion is caused by small acts of "I'll do it later." People often think failure is a result of one big bad decision. But most of the time, it's not. It's the slow buildup of dozens of ignored responsibilities, and the worst part, you usually don't notice it until it's already taken something from you. That's what makes it so dangerous. Success whispers, and so does neglect. One builds you, the other breaks you, but neither of them scream until it's too late. There's also an emotional cost to neglect. Every time you ignore something you know you should handle, you chip away at your confidence. You weaken the part of yourself that believes you're capable. You start to see yourself as unreliable, and that internal erosion is even more dangerous than the external one. Because once your self-trust disappears, everything becomes harder. You stop believing your own promises, you stop following through, and without that trust, goals feel meaningless. Accountability is the antidote. When you stop letting yourself off the hook, when you start treating your responsibilities as non-negotiable, you begin to reverse the damage. You begin to rebuild your life, not with grand gestures, but with small, consistent acts of attention. You answer the call instead of ignoring it. You finish the task instead of postponing it. You show up for the hard things instead of hiding. That's how momentum is reclaimed, not with motivation, but with maturity. We often admire discipline in others as if it's a rare trait, but it's not. Discipline is just a refusal to neglect. It's the daily decision to pay attention to what matters, even when it's inconvenient. It's the strength to say, "This matters, and I won't let it slide." That mindset separates those who build a life they're proud of from those who are always one step behind. Neglect steals from your future. It doesn't ask for permission, it just shows up. It drains potential. It takes what could have been and leaves behind disappointment. But the power to fight it lies in the present moment, not by waiting for motivation, but by recognizing that what you ignore today becomes the crisis of tomorrow. Responsibility is not a burden, it's a safeguard. It's how you protect your dreams, it's how you protect your family, it's how you protect your peace. There's no escaping the fact that what you refuse to deal with today will eventually demand to be dealt with tomorrow. The only question is whether you want to face it while it's small and manageable or later, when it's grown into something that controls you. Life doesn't pause just because you do. Time doesn't stop while you procrastinate. The world keeps moving, and if you're not careful, neglect can cost you opportunities that won't return. Success doesn't just require action. It requires sustained, repeated attention. It's not a one-time effort. It's a constant investment. You have to guard your habits, your time, your standards, because what you tolerate, you allow to grow, and what you allow to grow will eventually define you. Every day, you're either maintaining your standards or allowing them to slip. You're either honoring your responsibilities or delaying them, and those small decisions carry weight whether you feel it now or not. Habits are invisible builders of your future. They work quietly beneath the surface, shaping the person you are becoming long before the results are visible to anyone else. You don't see them taking form. There's no immediate applause. There's no fanfare. But habits are always at work. They're either constructing a life of discipline, strength, clarity, and growth, or they're silently reinforcing comfort, stagnation, distraction, and decline. The choice is always yours, but the results are never optional. Most people underestimate the power of a habit because it looks so small in the moment. Waking up early one day doesn't change your life. Reading 5 pages doesn't make you a scholar. Saving a few dollars doesn't make you wealthy. Saying no to a bad choice once doesn't make you a master of self-control, but stack those moments, do them over and over, and soon they form the foundation of a life that looks radically different. Habits are the blueprint. Repetition is the construction crew. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to focus on what you do daily, because what you do daily becomes who you are. That's the reality. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. Everyone wants to be disciplined, successful, and fulfilled, but wanting doesn't create change. Systems do, routines do, the boring stuff, the unsexy things that nobody claps for. That's where transformation begins. People often say they want a different life, but they're unwilling to change the rhythm of their day. They want different results, but they continue with the same routines. That's a contradiction. You can't hope your way into a new identity. You must build it deliberately, patiently, relentlessly. Habits are the invisible hand that sculpts you. You become what you repeatedly do. Excellence, then, isn't an act, it's a habit, just like mediocrity. It's easy to admire someone else's success and assume it came from a few big decisions. But the truth is, most of what you admire was created through thousands of invisible choices made in quiet, disciplined moments. It's not the speech that makes the speaker. It's the hours spent studying, reflecting, refining their voice. It's not the championship that makes the athlete. It's the hours in the gym, the early mornings, the drills they never skipped when no one was watching. That's the power of habit. It creates mastery behind the scenes. Your habits are the real version of your priorities. You can say health is important, but if your habits say otherwise, the truth is in your behavior. You can claim you want to build wealth, but if your habits include impulse spending, neglecting investments, and avoiding budgeting, your life will reflect that, not your intentions. This is the great mirror that habits hold up to us.
They don't care what you say you want. They show what you truly commit to. It's not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. If you can control the first 60 minutes of your day, you can usually shape the rest.
If you can build habits around your time, your energy, your health, your mindset, you give yourself a massive advantage in a world that is constantly trying to distract you. Habits protect your focus.
They simplify your decisions. They free your mind from decision fatigue by turning discipline into automation. Bad habits do the opposite. They chip away at your potential without you noticing. They seem harmless at first. A little procrastination, a little indulgence, a little laziness. But they repeat, and repetition always leads somewhere. You don't stay the same, you drift. And when you drift long enough, you find yourself in a place you never intended to be, wondering how you got there. It wasn't one big mistake. It was a series of small, repeated ones. It was the habit of neglect. The beauty of habits is that they are changeable. You are not stuck with the ones you have, but they do not change easily. Habits are wired deep into your behavior. They take effort to install and discipline to sustain. But once a good habit takes root, it becomes a force that works for you, not against you. Imagine your life where your default actions align with your goals, where progress is built into your routine. That's not fantasy. That's habit at work. The most powerful thing about habits is that they remove the need for constant motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It's emotional. It's unreliable, but a habit doesn't care how you feel. A habit runs because it's been trained to run. You don't negotiate with it. You don't debate whether to do it or not. You just do it because that's what you've conditioned yourself to do. That's the secret of the people who always seem disciplined. They don't have more willpower. They have stronger habits. Habits also create identity. When you act a certain way consistently, your brain starts to believe that's who you are. Run every day, and eventually you don't just run. You become a runner. Write every morning, and you become a writer. Show up early, stay focused, and you become dependable, responsible, trustworthy. Habits not only change your outcomes, they change your self-image. And when your identity shifts, your standards rise to match. Changing a habit often starts with changing your environment. You don't have to rely on raw willpower. You can set yourself up to succeed. Remove temptations. Add reminders. Reduce friction. Make the good habit easy to start and the bad habit hard to continue. Design your surroundings so that success becomes the path of least resistance. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. Great systems create great behavior. It's also helpful to start small. Most people fail to change because they try to change everything at once. But lasting change comes from starting with something so simple you can't fail. Want to build a reading habit? Start with 1 page a day. Want to improve your health? Begin with 1 glass of water in the morning. Want to master your finances? Track just 1 category of spending. Once you succeed consistently, you build confidence, and confidence fuels bigger changes. You don't need to wait for a new year, a new week, or a new phase of life. You can install a habit today, right now. This hour, something small, meaningful, repeatable, because the future isn't built in giant leaps. It's built in quiet, ordinary repetitions. The kind nobody sees, the kind that make all the difference. The kind that become who you are. Habits are not just routines, they are investments in your future self. Every habit is a vote for the kind of life you want to live. Every repetition is a brick in the foundation of your identity. You are not only creating results, you are creating yourself, 1 habit at a time. Discipline is the bridge between desire and reality. Everyone wants something. Everyone has dreams, goals, visions of a better life, a stronger body, a healthier mind, more freedom, more peace. But wanting is not enough. Desire without discipline is a fantasy. It feels good for a moment, but it doesn't move you forward. It doesn't bring change. It doesn't deliver results.
The only thing that transforms desire into reality is discipline, the quiet, steady, sometimes uncomfortable ability to do what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like doing it. Discipline is not about punishment.
It's not about being harsh on yourself. It's about being loyal to your future. It's about keeping promises to yourself. When you say you want something, and then you align your behavior with that statement, you're building integrity with yourself. That's discipline. It's saying, this matters to me, so I'm going to act like it matters every single day. Not just when it's easy, not just when it's exciting, not just when the weather's good and you're in the mood, but especially when it's uncomfortable and inconvenient. The truth is, there will always be a gap between where you are and where you want to be. That gap is not crossed with motivation or inspiration. It's crossed with consistent, focused action. That's what discipline delivers. It closes the gap, it builds the bridge, and every step on that bridge is a decision. Do I show up today or not? Do I stay consistent or take the easy way? Do I follow through on what I said, or do I abandon it because it feels hard right now? Those daily decisions determine whether your desires become real or remain dreams. People often mistake discipline for talent, as if some people are just born with the ability to stick with things. But discipline isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. It's a skill, a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And just like a muscle, if you neglect it, it atrophies. You don't just have discipline, you do discipline. You practice it every time you make a choice aligned with your goals rather than your impulses. The hard part about discipline is that it often feels thankless at first. You wake up early to work on your goals and nobody's clapping. You skip junk food and nobody notices. You study, train, write, save, build, and it seems like nothing's happening. That's where most people give up. But the people who stay the course understand that results come later. They trust the process. They know that every disciplined act is a seed planted, and the harvest never comes the same day. They don't need instant validation. They're too busy building the future to worry about immediate applause. Discipline gives you freedom. It might sound like a contradiction, but it's the truth. When you're disciplined with your health, you gain the freedom to move, to breathe, to live without the weight of preventable illness. When you're disciplined with your money, you gain the freedom to choose how you live, where you go, what you build. When you're disciplined with your time, you gain the freedom to be present, to rest without guilt, to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. The lack of discipline feels like freedom in the moment, but it always leads to bondage in the long run. Real freedom is on the other side of consistent effort. The disciplined person is not the one who never feels tired, distracted, or overwhelmed. They feel all of that just like everyone else, but they act in spite of it. They have trained themselves to choose purpose over comfort. They've learned that feelings are not reliable guides. You may not feel like doing the right thing, but that doesn't mean you're not capable of doing it. Discipline teaches you to separate your emotions from your actions. You can feel lazy and still do the work. You can feel fear and still take the step. You can feel doubt and still move forward. That's the strength discipline brings. It also brings clarity. When you live with discipline, your days stop being chaotic. Your goals stop being vague. Your time stops being wasted. You begin to see what really matters. You learn how to say no. Not out of guilt, but out of wisdom. You realize that every yes to distraction is a no to progress, and so you start choosing more wisely. You start protecting your time, your mind, your energy. You become a better steward of your own life. Discipline also builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you follow through on a commitment, no matter how small, you reinforce the belief that you can count on yourself. That self-trust is the foundation of confidence. It's not built by talking to yourself in the mirror, it's built by showing up when you said you would. Discipline is the evidence that your words mean something, even when nobody else is watching. Without discipline, desire is just noise. It's scattered energy. You jump from one idea to another, chasing the next shiny thing, quitting when it gets boring or hard. But with discipline, you stay rooted, you can focus, you can commit, and over time, you begin to see the compound effect of your effort. Small wins stack, momentum builds, what once felt impossible now feels natural. That's the reward discipline gives you, not just results, but a new identity. You start to see yourself differently. You stop identifying with your excuses and start identifying with your standard. You no longer need to fake confidence because your actions prove your strength. That shift changes everything. People can sense it. You carry yourself differently. You speak with more certainty. You're not looking for shortcuts because you've fallen in love with the process. You understand that what really matters isn't how fast you arrive, but how consistently you show up. Discipline is a decision you make again and again. It's not a one-time moment of willpower. It's a daily choice to stay aligned with what you value. Some days it feels easy, most days it won't. But each time you choose discipline over distraction, you close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You prove to yourself that change is possible. Not because you hoped for it, but because you worked for it. Because you earned it, one step at a time, one decision at a time. And each of those decisions is a brick on the bridge between your desire and your reality. Change doesn't require dramatic effort, just daily intention. That's the piece most people miss when they think about transformation. They imagine some massive, overwhelming leap that instantly alters everything. A complete overhaul. A new routine, a strict diet, a radical shift in lifestyle. They get fired up for one day, maybe two, but because they started too big and demanded too much too quickly, they burn out. They fall back and then they tell themselves change is too hard, too unrealistic, too out of reach. But change doesn't need to be explosive, it needs to be deliberate, and it needs to be consistent. It's not about what you do once in a while with intensity. It's about what you do every day with purpose. Daily intention is about making choices that align with your goals, your values, and your vision for the future. It's waking up and deciding who you want to be today, not just in theory, but in practice. It's asking yourself, what does that version of me do today? How do they think? How do they act? How do they respond to setbacks? And then it's choosing in small ways to live that way. Even when it's inconvenient, even when no one notices, even when you're tired, frustrated, or overwhelmed, that's what real change looks like. Not grand gestures, but quiet consistency. People think change has to be visible right away. That if it's not showing up fast, it must not be working. But growth doesn't operate on your timeline. It moves in silence first. The shift begins inside. Before it's obvious to anyone else, you start thinking differently. You start treating yourself with a little more respect. You pause before reacting. You choose the water instead of the soda. You get up 10 minutes earlier, and those tiny moments, they're the real transformation. They're proof that your identity is shifting, that you're no longer living on autopilot. Small steps are powerful because they're sustainable. Anyone can do something big once, but can you do something small every day, even when the excitement wears off? That's the question. Change that lasts doesn't come from motivation. Motivation fades. Real transformation is born from intention. Clear, daily, repeated intention. It's created through rituals, through rhythm, through routine. It's built in the way you start your morning, how you use your time, the boundaries you set, the habits you protect. These things may look minor in the moment, but over time they accumulate and compound into real, lasting results. Most people don't fail because they lack desire. They fail because they don't have structure. They try to rely on willpower, and willpower is limited. Intention, when turned into habit, frees you from the constant need to feel motivated. You stop needing to force yourself and start flowing through your day because you've trained yourself to act in alignment with your vision. That's what makes daily intention so powerful. It reshapes your behavior at the root level. It rewires your instinct
so that progress becomes part of who you are, not just something you try to chase. It's also important to recognize that daily intention doesn't mean every day looks perfect. It doesn't mean you never mess up or fall off track. What it means is that each day, no matter what happened yesterday, you recommit. You decide again, you show up again, you realign again. Progress is not linear. It's not clean or easy or flawless. There will be off days, setbacks, and unexpected challenges. But when your change is rooted in daily intention, you're not derailed by difficulty. You bend, but you don't break. You recover faster, you learn, you adjust, and you keep going. When you understand that change comes from small actions repeated with consistency, you stop waiting for the perfect time to begin. You stop believing you need a big moment or a huge breakthrough. You stop searching for external permission. You realize you can begin now, with what you have where you are. Because what matters isn't how much you do in a single day, but what direction you're moving in day after day. Are you heading closer to your goal or drifting further away? That's the metric, that's the compass. Daily intention is powerful because it puts the responsibility and the power back in your hands. You no longer blame the environment, the economy, the people around you, or the past. You start owning your choices. You start focusing on what you can control, and you begin to notice how much of your life can change simply by changing how you show up in it. You start to realize that you are not stuck. You are just in need of new habits, new focus, new energy. And the doorway to all of that is intention. It's awareness followed by action. Even the smallest shifts matter. Writing down your goals each morning, preparing your meals instead of eating out, taking 5 minutes to plan your day, turning your phone off an hour before bed, reading one page, saying one kind word, drinking one glass of water. These things are so easy to do and just as easy not to do. But if you stack those intentional moments, if you make them part of your daily flow, they begin to work like compound interest, invisible at first, but eventually undeniable. The people who succeed in the long run are not the ones who go all out for a week and crash. They're the ones who stay steady, who build systems, who move forward one day at a time. There's something deeply powerful about proving to yourself that you can change, not all at once, but through deliberate repetition. Every time you choose action over avoidance, growth over comfort, alignment over impulse, you reinforce the identity of someone who doesn't quit. And that identity, once it's internalized, becomes the engine that drives long-term change. You no longer need to force yourself because your behavior is no longer a struggle. It's a reflection of who you believe you are. Change doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require extreme talent or perfect conditions. What it requires is daily intention, backed by action, a willingness to begin again, a refusal to give up just because the process is slow, a mindset that says, this might take time, but I'm willing to invest that time. That's how lives are changed. Not in one massive explosion, but in the quiet, steady power of a decision made each day. The decision to show up, the decision to choose better, the decision to take one small step again and again, until the path you're walking becomes the life you once dreamed of. Your next 90 days are either your excuse or your breakthrough. That's the reality most people don't want to confront. We all have a tendency to point fingers at the economy, at our upbringing, at our circumstances. It's easy to fall into the trap of delay, to rationalize why now isn't the right time. We tell ourselves that we're waiting for clarity, waiting for the perfect conditions, waiting for inspiration to strike. But what we're really doing is building an excuse not to begin, an excuse to stay where it's comfortable, familiar, and safe. But safe doesn't lead to growth. Familiar doesn't lead to fulfillment. And comfort never built anything worth remembering. The next 90 days will come whether you're ready or not. Whether you use them intentionally or waste them carelessly, they will pass. And when they do, they will leave behind either results or regret. Results are earned by those who commit. Regret is inherited by those who postpone. The truth is, your life doesn't dramatically change in a moment. It changes in a series of daily decisions that are made long before the results are visible. The next 90 days are your opportunity to build momentum, to get serious, to prove to yourself that you can follow through. Or they're your opportunity to let another cycle slip away and then explain why things still aren't different. Every goal, every dream, every vision you carry requires time, energy, and focused attention. It won't just happen because you want it to. Wishing doesn't make things real, but working a plan day after day does. If you could dedicate yourself to something for 90 days, just 3 months you'd shock yourself with what's possible. But most people won't, not because they can't, but because they never take full ownership. They spend their energy trying to avoid failure instead of pursuing progress. They get distracted. They start strong and fizzle out. They forget why they started. And by the time the 90 days pass, they have nothing but unfinished intentions and recycled excuses. The next 90 days will test you. You'll feel excited in the beginning, but somewhere along the way the work will get heavy, the novelty will fade, your mind will offer you an out. It'll say things like, "You've done enough," or "You can take a break today," or "You can start fresh next week." That's the trap. That's where most people lose, not in the first few days of effort, but in the moments when it stops being fun and starts requiring discipline. But those are the defining moments. If you can push through them, if you can stay committed even when the results are invisible, you start building a different version of yourself. One who doesn't fold when things get inconvenient. There's something powerful about the number 90. It's short enough to feel achievable, but long enough to make real progress. You can't hide in a 90-day cycle. If you stay consistent, the results will show. If you slack off, the lack will show too. The mirror doesn't lie. The bank account doesn't lie. The relationships, the energy levels, the focus. They all tell the story of how you've been living. So the question becomes, what story do you want your next 90 days to tell? Do you want it to speak of effort, resilience, and growth? Or do you want it to echo the same excuses that have held you back before? You don't need a massive overhaul to create a breakthrough. What you need is commitment. Daily commitment, the kind that doesn't depend on mood or motivation, the kind that shows up regardless of how you feel, because real change isn't born in grand declarations, it's born in small, repeated acts of discipline. One morning of waking up earlier, one workout done even when you're tired, 1 hour of focused work without distractions, one healthy choice made in the face of temptation. These are the building blocks of a breakthrough. And they are all available to you today, tomorrow, and the day after that. What makes the next 90 days different is what you decide to do with them. You can drift or you can drive. You can react or you can create. You can wait or you can build. Most people underestimate how much their life can change in 90 days of focused effort. They overestimate how much they can do in a day, and they underestimate how much they can achieve in a season of consistent, intentional action. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to decide what you want and refuse to quit until it's done. Your breakthrough doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't need to be announced. It just needs to be lived quietly, steadily, with intention, with focus. It's not about showing the world what you're doing. It's about becoming someone you respect when no one's watching. The next 90 days can redefine how you see yourself. They can restore confidence, build trust, and reignite passion, but only if you show up for them fully, only if you stop entertaining your old story and start writing a new one, only if you stop negotiating with your potential and start demanding results from your actions. The excuses you're tempted to use, they're not new. They're just recycled patterns, patterns that have kept you stuck, small and doubting, patterns that feel familiar but cost you opportunity. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," or "It's not the right time," you hand over control. You reinforce a narrative of delay,
hesitation, and fear. But the next 90 days don't care about your excuses. They only respond to effort, and effort is always within your control. When you fully accept that your results are your responsibility, you unlock something powerful. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop blaming and start building. You stop wishing and start working. And you realize that what separates those who achieve from those who talk is simple: consistent action over time. That's it. No magic, no luck. Just decision followed by discipline repeated daily. The next 90 days are a blank canvas. You can use them to paint a future you're proud of, or waste them like you've done before. You can let your comfort zone dictate your actions, or you can step beyond it and see what you're really made of. You can live the next 90 days by default, repeating old habits, telling old stories, or you can live by design, aligned with vision, purpose, and growth. You'll be tempted to shrink, to settle, to say it doesn't matter, but it does. These days matter. What you do today matters. What you choose tomorrow matters. It all adds up. Every small win, every difficult decision, every act of courage, they all shape who you're becoming. They all determine whether you wake up 90 days from now proud or disappointed, progressing or repeating. You've had seasons before where you let time slip away, where you made plans but didn't follow through, where you talked more than you executed. But this next season can be different. Not because it's easier, but because you're stronger, you're wiser, you're ready. Not perfect, but ready. Ready to put in the work, to honor your word, to pursue what you want with relentless consistency.